I found the coin on a rain-slick stone ledge, thunder on one face and a trident on the other, as if the sky wrestled the sea in my palm. The moment I touched it, every story I've ever loved about gods at war seemed to breathe, coil, and rise around me like living storm clouds. If myths are maps, then this little disc is a compass, and tonight I'm following it into the arenas where immortals clash and our world learns their moves. I'm a wanderer of stories, a collector of echoes, and I've chased these echoes into a midnight archive where the shelves hum like beehives of time. The gods I'm about to meet aren't just statues or footnotes, they are patterns, thunderheads, tides, comets, that humans named and argued with for centuries. Come with me, and let's ask a dangerous question together. What happens when gods fight, and why do those battles keep re-enlisting our imaginations? To navigate, I split divine conflict into three currents: creation battles that forge worlds from chaos, succession struggles that decide who rules, and end-time showdowns that reset the clock. First, I hold the coin up to the sky, and Greece answers with a roar: Zeus against Typhon, the mountain-sized storm serpent whose 100 snakeheads spit wildfire across the horizon. The tale feels like weather learning to speak, thunder organizing itself into a crown, wind signed into law, disaster negotiated into a map of mountains and islands. If you've ever watched a blockbuster where the city becomes a chessboard beneath two impossible beings, you've seen Typhon's shadow. Scale itself becomes the story, mirroring our awe at forces we can't budget or vote away. Another Greek corridor opens. Athena against Ares, strategy facing rage, city walls facing the open field. In these duels, cities choose how they want to live. The plan or the charge, map or banner, patience or fury, and culture quietly changes its clothing to match. When a comic book hero debates whether to fight head-on or outthink a tyrant, the panels recycle that old debate with capes and neon, but the argument is familiar as olive smoke. Northward I go, and the air turns sharp. The Norse sing of Ragnarok, wolves eating the sun, oceans uncaging the world serpent, gods riding into a final, honest fire. Odin falls, Thor cracks the serpent's skull and takes 9 staggering steps, and the world doesn't end so much as exhale and start again, ash-sweet and newborn. Why do we repeat endings? Because endings teach us how to carry weight. Even heroes have a receipt, and the story pays its bill before it dares begin anew. South along the Nile's black ribbon, night rows a solar bark. Ra battles the chaos serpent Apophis in the underworld, every dusk a wager, every dawn a receipt for courage. Egypt writes the cosmos as a platform that must be actively maintained, like a temple floor swept of sand, Ma'at being balance you do, not just a word you say. Whenever a series resets its universe overnight, cleansing the chaos and patching the cracks by sunrise, it's the river logic of Ra making a cameo under fluorescent light. East to the floodplains between two rivers, where Babylon dreams its architecture into the sky, Marduk nets Tiamat, the dragon of saltwater chaos, and plucks constellations from her scattered bones. The story makes crafting into combat, naming, measuring, cataloging, as if writing a dictionary were a duel that ends with calendars and levies. Whenever world-building feels like its own hero, atlases, star charts, rule books, you're overhearing the Enuma Elish whisper that order itself once won a war to exist. Then the drumbeat rises across the subcontinent. Durga rides a lion into the battlefield and meets the buffalo demon Mahishasura with calm that looks like sunlight wearing armor. The triumph is both cosmic and intimate, a reminder that ferocity can be protective, that a mother's gaze can be a shield, that festivals can remember victory better than any brass. I see this pattern whenever a franchise finally hands the throne to a woman who commands not by imitation but by synthesis, warrior and caretaker, blade and bomb, one body learning both. In the islands of Japan, a stormy trickster named Susanoo finds an 8-headed serpent terrorizing a village and uses wit, sake and patience, to turn monster into legend and legend into a sword. Here the duel is a puzzle box. Cleverness over muscle, hospitality as trap, the hero standing close enough to danger to read its breath, then cutting a story free from its neck. Every time a game asks me to solve a boss through patterns instead of stats, I bow to a tradition older than silk, older than steel, where a cup can beat a fong. Beyond the mountains of central Mexico, the sun leaps from a shrine with a shield newborn hot. Huitzilopochtli scattering the rebellious moon, Coyolxauhqui, and her starry allies down the slopes of Coatepec. The message is orbital and political at once. Day must win, but only today. You feed the fire or it goes out, and people are the keepers of flame. If you've felt a franchise devour every resource to fuel its sun, spin-offs like sparks, it's that same logic, the discipline of daily sacrifice translated into ratings and weekends. West Africa hums with thunder and iron. Shango's double-headed axe cracks the horizon while Ogun's iron roads open the forest, stories balancing flash with forge, charisma with craft. Are they at war or in dialogue? Depends on the teller. Sometimes the storm tests the road, sometimes the road teaches the storm where to go. I carry that lesson into every scene where spectacle and engineering meet, where special effects must shake hands with story structure or both fall like wet clay. After a while, the arenas blur and something quieter arrives, the battlefield inside the ribcage, where desire and duty, fear and love, wrestle without armor or trumpet. Call it a Jungian theater or a moral gym. Either way, the gods model our internal choreography, giving shapes to moods that otherwise feel like earthquakes without names. What divine duel lives in you? Calm leadership versus impulsive bravery, patience versus righteous fury, and what would it take to let both sign a peace treaty? Pop culture loves these battles because they scale beautifully. Infinite spectacle outside, intimate stakes inside, a camera sliding from skylines to pupils and back without breaking theme. Cinematic universes sell family drama in armor. Role-playing games turn pantheons into skill trees. Comics debate ethics by letting titans throw islands like frisbees. When it works because the metaphor backbone holds. Lightning is still anger, sea is still memory, fire is still hunger, and love still writes the plot in the margins. But there's etiquette in this arena too. Respect for living traditions, context for what is sacred, humility when borrowing symbols that still feed someone's sunrise. Appreciation asks questions. Appropriation grabs trophies. And I, a storyteller with a lucky coin, try to leave every shrine tidier than I found it. If a narrative uses a god as a costume without the body inside, the cloth sags. If it listens to the original heartbeat, the cloth dances on its own. The archive doors yawn, and I step through into an amphitheater of stone where thunder speaks in a chorus of dialects. Greek, Norse, Egyptian, Babylonian, Sanskrit, Nahuatl, Yoruba. They aren't here to brawl, they are here to teach posture. Stand tall like a pine at the cliff's lip, bend like reeds in flood, listen like a hunter at dawn. I breathe, and the coin grows warm. Trident and bolt crossing like a handshake, mercy and might agreeing to co-author my next chapter. Let me share a few fingerprints these battles left on the tools we use to dream. Pacing, scale, and symbolism, three gifts wrapped in thunder. Pacing. Creation duels often begin messy and slow, then click into certainty. Succession fights sprint then stall in negotiation. Apocalypses drum a steady, inevitable beat that trains the audience to hear hoofbeats before they see dust. Scale. Gods teach us to ladder our awe, from close-up trembling hand to wide shot of continents bending. The difference between a whisper and a siren is measured in horizon. Symbolism. Lightning means decision, ocean means memory, serpent means repetition, bird means message. You know these codes already because your ancestors rehearsed them around cookfires. As I catalog these tools, I remember a night I tried to write my own scene of gods at war and failed so hard the page felt like a broken shield. I was staging spectacle without consequence. Nobody's breakfast would change, nobody's grief would soften, and the duel might as well have been two clouds bumping in a lazy sky. So I started again and asked who would carry water after the battle, who would forgive, who would rebuild, and the story finally breathed like a tired worker leaning on a shovel. Let's try a guided tour through 3 pop culture arenas and hear the old deities whisper through the noise. In a superhero epic, the climactic sky beam pulls crowds up by the chin, but the memorable moment is when a masked figure chooses honesty over victory, Zeus's lightning resculpted as confession. In an action RPG, boss patterns echo ritual. 3 phases like 3 offerings, a weak point exposed as if the monster has admitted a secret. That's Susanu's sake poured into coding. In a fantasy series, the cartographers are the real heroes, treaties drawn like star charts, and that's Babylon nodding from behind the camera. I also listen for the quiet wins. The friend who lays down a sword, the leader who shares a throne, the child who asks an unanswerable question and isn't shushed. Those are battles too. Athena outthinking Ares, Ra rowing through midnight by faith alone, Durga smiling at dawn because a city is safe and the bread will rise. And when audiences cheer, it's often because they recognize their kitchen table in the Colosseum, their commute in a chariot race, their breakup in a thunderstorm. If you're a creator, here's a craft secret I scribbled in the margins. Pick a pantheon not for its weapons but for its worldview, then aim your camera at the worldview when sparks fly. Greek fights argue about civic life, Norse fights baptize loss, Egyptian fights maintain order, Mesopotamian fights legalize existence. Hindu fights balance ferocity with protection, Shinto fights valorize cunning, Mexica fights power the sun, Yoruba fights negotiate art and industry. Mix carefully and you can make lightning that doesn't just dazzle, it illuminates a table where your characters must finally sit and eat. A wind moves in the archive and the shelves sound like sails. The coin cools in my hand, heavy as a promise I've decided to keep. I came chasing battles, but I leave with a treaty. I will tell these old stories with humility, I will let them rearrange my furniture, and I will watch the way they rearrange the world. And if the gods ever truly meet in a city square, I hope they argue about how to build, not how to burn, because we are listening and will copy their homework. Before I go, I want to hand you the coin and ask, which face calls you, thunder or tide, and what story would you write if you trusted that answer? Share the battle that lives in your chest and the truce you want to sign, because somewhere a festival is waiting to celebrate the morning you make. If this journey lit a torch in your imagination, subscribe, leave a like, and tell me which mythic duel you want me to walk into next. Until then, travel safe and carry a good story.